Growing up in the 90s in Georgia, the Dodge Viper was it. It was the pinnacle of American supercar. V10, incredible looks, nothing like it. In fact, my very first model I ever built was a blue with white stripe, second generation Dodge Viper GTS. I'll never forget that model. Today, we're going to talk about the newest generation, and that's this. It's the 5th generation SRT Viper GTS. Now, the old second generation Viper was known to be a handful. You can go on YouTube and search Dodge Viper and you'll see what I'm talking about. So today we're going to see, is this car still a handful with all the technology and all the years that they've been developing it? Is it still an American monster? So we've got to start with the looks. I remember seeing the Dodge Viper for the first time on the road, and there was nothing that looked like it. So does this car still have that? I think it absolutely does. Because you have such a massive 8.4 liter V10 in the front, you have this long, low slung hood with these new aggressive looking headlights. This car with the GTS package, you have the Venom Black with the gunmetal stripes, which just like the old GTS cars, it kind of carries that same look through this car. What I love about the GTS package is that you have only 2 intakes on this long hood. The other cars have 6 intakes, which I just think is a little too much. So I love the way that the GTS package comes together. And the roof, you have this channel down the center that just really accentuates where you're sitting in the driver's seat. The other thing about this car that's very unique, the Dodge Viper was always kind of known, sort of like the Corvette back in the day, of just being a car that had high horsepower, huge American engine, but was kind of poor quality. Well, not so much in this car. You have, even though this hood is huge, this whole hood is carbon fiber. The rear deck lid on the car is carbon fiber. So you have new technology and new materials being put into this car to make it a modern supercar. And so even though the looks on the outside are definitely aggressive, all the materials underneath the skin of this car allow it to be a modern performer. So moving to the interior of the car, there's one thing that really sticks out to me, and it's how well this interior has aged. This is a 10-year-old car. It's a 2013 Viper GTS, and it still looks and feels relatively new. This car is optioned with the upgraded Laguna interior package. So you do have upgraded leather throughout the interior of this car, and that only helps because it is a very simplistic interior. You've got a couple screens, a couple analog gauges. I love the mix of analog and digital. And then really you just have your shift knob and the handbrake, and that's it. But I think that is why this interior still works so well today. You don't have a bunch of outdated screens or outdated design pieces here and there. It's just really, really simple. But at the end of the day, it's not really about the exterior, interior. It's about how does this car perform. So let's go see what it does. So there are 2 main things I'm going to think about when driving the 5th generation SRT Viper. And first is it better than the previous generations? I've had the privilege of driving the 2nd and the 4th generation Vipers. So is it an improvement over those cars? And second, most importantly, does it still feel like a Dodge Viper? Hopefully they didn't engineer this car so well that it feels tame and it feels muted. At the end of the day, you still want a Viper to be a car that scares you, that demands your respect, so does it do that? Well, first, let's talk about the first one. Does the exotic materials of the carbon fiber and the upgraded suspension and the massive 355 with tires on the back of the car make an improvement to the car? Not only that, but the improvement to a 640 horsepower V10 up front. You know, it's funny because At the end of the day, this motor was derived from a truck motor, and it still kind of feels like that. It is massively powerful, but it just feels almost like all torque. It's really, really unique the way this car puts power down. Now, in my opinion, I love that. I feel like it's very controllable. I don't feel, I've been in this car now for about 10 minutes. I've never felt like I'm gonna spin out and the tires are gonna get out from under me. It's a very controlled car, but at the end of the day, it still kind of feels heavy. It feels like a car that if I were to take it a little too quick into a corner and get a little sideways, if I didn't know what I was doing, I could definitely get in some trouble. So all of that to say, yeah, it is an improvement over the previous generations. The power is massive, 600 foot-pounds of torque. Huge, huge, huge amounts of power. But the car has been designed to be able to control that. And I love the hydraulic steering of this car. A lot of manufacturers have gone to electric steering, but the weight of hydraulic steering you just cannot beat. So the second question, does it still feel like a Viper? Like I was mentioning before, yeah, it does. It feels like a car that you have to respect. If you're going through a corner too quickly, this snake will bite you. There's no doubt about it. Cody just rolled his eyes there, but it's a very unique car, and you know, it's not a Ferrari, it's not a Lamborghini, it's not a Porsche for sure. You can tell that there's still some compromises in this interior. There's still some things that are very American, but that's part of the personality of this car. It's, you know, the C8 Corvette, we don't have to get into it right now, but it's kind of controversial to me because it feels like America trying to be a foreign supercar, and I don't love that. I want these US supercars to remain US supercars, and so I think the Viper does a wonderful job of that. The sound in this cabin is just deafening. We were driving this car just, you know, casually earlier, and even driving the car casually, that massive 8.4 liter V10, I mean, at certain RPMs, it just screams. Yeah, this car is a unique driving experience. There's no doubt about it. It remains to be an American supercar.